Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Awesome in Seattle podcast. This is your host, Christian Nossum with the Awesome Nossum Group at Wilson Realty, and I'm here today with my wonderful co-host, my beautiful wife, Shannon Nossum.
Hello. I am so excited for this podcast today.
Yes, this podcast topic is one that we have been asked to talk on and speak on numerous times, at least once. Okay, no, I'm joking.
Like at least 10 times.
Probably more than that. But it is basically how to get your partner on board with your desire to invest in real estate. I was the one that was always on board because I was in real estate. She was the attorney, not on board in child taking care of. Risk averse. Yes,
not on board.
Very risk averse. And this is a story of how I got her on board, and also how, if your spouse or partner is maybe a little bit reluctant, some ways that you can help them understand the positives of doing this, and maybe give you some tips on how you might be able to convert your partner to join the dark side of real estate investing.
Yep. So today we're first going to talk about what does that mean? What does it get involved in real estate mean? Because I think that's different things for different people.
Totally.
We're going to share our story of kind of how Christian converted me over to the dark side. And then we are going to go over some methods that I think worked for us in getting on the same page.
So why don't you explain our backstory? What happened before? Where were we that I was an agent for, forever, since 2005, and bought my first house in 2005, and it was a house hack. I lived in a duplex. She lived there with me, actually, and then we bought another one, and then we bought another one, and slowly I started to convert her. But even after owning 3 properties, she still was not on board with the investing train.
Yeah, so I was okay with long-term rentals. That's the thing that maybe is different about me than the typical reluctant spouse. I was okay with that. I had some rentals in my family, so it's kind of just something I'd always known.
Your grandparents had rentals, so you knew it was kind of a thing.
I knew it was a thing. I knew why that was beneficial, but that's the only thing of real estate I was okay with. But Christian definitely wanted, always from day one, he wanted me involved. Let's talk about what does involved mean first.
Yeah.
I want to define that a little bit. So I hear people all the time say, oh, I just got to get my partner involved in this. I just want my partner on board. I want them involved. I think for some people, what that means is they want their partner to allow them or be okay with them doing any kind of investing. Because really, these are decisions you do have to make with your partner. If you're going to do real estate investing, there are some risks to that. It's a time commitment. And there are some partners who are like, no, you're not doing that. Like, you're not buying a rental. You're not flipping a house. You're not doing that. So I think sometimes what people mean is they want their partner to be okay with them doing it.
To be accepting of them, because they're going to do it regardless.
Yep. Well, maybe not.
Oh, maybe not.
Maybe not. And so they want their partner to say, like, okay, I'm in for you to do that. And then I think there's other people, and this is maybe part of where Christian was at too, that want their partner working with them side by side as investors daily, or even just working on the business to any extent so that they understand what's happening in the real estate business that they're already doing. So I know there's a lot of partners where one is doing active investing and the other is not. And maybe the one who's active wants the partner to join them. So
yes, I definitely wanted you side by side. Side by side.
And here we are. I think this podcast is really for any of those. It works for any of that. Whether your partner's reluctant to support you doing real estate at all, or whether you're doing it alone and you want them to be a little bit of a part of it, or you're doing it somewhat and they're kind of helping you, but you want them to help you more. So I think it works in any of those scenarios. So I want to start with that.
What are some of the ways that I helped convert you, and some others maybe can help convert their partner to join the dark side of real estate investing?
Yeah, so I think our story, like I said, we had some rentals, but I was really hesitant to do any active investing. I was an attorney.
And what that means is she didn't want to do flips or development deals or anything like that.
Anything really like that.
She just wanted to do 20% down long-term investment. That's it.
And even that, sometimes I was a little hesitant about.
Yes,
I was
that is
like, well,
definitely
if
true.
we have this money, like, I don't know if I want to buy another rental with it. I mean, there was a little bit of hesitation in that, but not as much as the others. And I think for me, part of that came from just being risk averse in general. And I was an attorney, so I always saw things going wrong because nothing comes to an attorney's desk unless there's a problem generally. Nobody's like, we're having a great time. Come to help us.
Let me pay you a bunch of money to look at how good of a time we're having.
Yeah, exactly. So usually things are going very bad when I would see it. And so I was generally just in a risk-averse person. But I think for me, I was scared. It's a fear. It was a fear thing. And not just on the investment side, but on like, can we do it? Do we have the skill set to do it?
Do we have the knowledge?
Do we have the knowledge to do it? Do we have the time to do it? And remember, most of this was happening in the era where we had babies, like little kids too. So I feel like the time was a big concern of mine. And
Understandably.
and the risk felt really big financially, the risk of any of those activities. So the way Christian converted me was, one, it took a long time. I just want to start that. This is a 10-year process.
This is a slow drip.
This is very slow.
This is a seed I have been sowing for many years.
I think part of it was just showing me the benefits of what it could be. And I did understand those eventually and understand what it could do for us and our family. But even with that, I was still scared. And the reason that I changed my mind, the reason that I was okay with doing active investing where we are now, where we're flipping houses, doing dados,
This is the key that finally converted her, everyone.
this is the final piece. Well, I had to get education first. I had to understand everything first.
Which we'll go over that in a minute. But
this is the key, is that I realized that the life that we wanted, we weren't going to get unless we did something different. And that felt like more of a risk to stay in the same spot.
that was scarier.
That was scarier than taking the risk to do the active investing for me.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
the fear of not getting to where we both wanted to go for our family was stronger. By following the path that we were going on, she could see that there was no way we would get there doing the same thing we're doing.
Yeah, and no way we could we wanted more rentals, right? We wanted a certain passive income number. When we looked at that, and we're in Seattle, it's expensive. So it would take us, $200,000 to buy another rental. And that's a lot of money to save. And I realized, oh my gosh, well, we're never going to be able to buy very many of these if we just save up and then buy one and then save up for another 7 years and buy another one. Like,
It was too slow.
it was way too slow and we were never going to get anywhere. And so the combination of exposure, understanding the mindset, feeling comfortable with investing and understanding that you can mitigate risk. Then finally the decision of, okay, we're never going to get where we want to go
Going down
if
the
we
same
don't take
path.
this risk.
Yep. So the fear of not getting there overcame the fear of doing it wrong or
Of
losing
failure.
money or failure of flipping or building dadus or whatever.
Do you have any more? This is interesting.
now
I don't
getting-
know what Christian did. So do you have anything that I didn't share that you're like, I intentionally
Oh, yeah.
did these things?
I would always talk about it, first off.
Well, yeah.
So I never didn't talk. I was always talking about it, always getting you involved, at least a little, getting your opinion all the time, bringing stuff up, running stuff by you, just trying to get you incorporated and understand what was happening and what we wanted to do and how we wanted to get there, and painting that picture, helping you paint the picture of where are we going to be in 10, 20, 30 years? Where do we want to be and where are we now? And the path we're going on clearly ain't going to work. So we got to do something else. Here is the path that we could do or we could go down to get to where we want to be. So it was showing you that and then bringing you into my world of real estate investing. And
I got to say, Christian is really good at planting seeds. This is what makes him a really, really good negotiator on the agent side, is he thinks way, way, way ahead. When he's talking to somebody the first time, he'll go off the phone and he'll be like, oh, did you notice how I said this? That's because in 2 weeks, then this inspection period is going to happen. And then I want to say this. I'm like, oh my gosh. So he did this a long game of 10 years.
Very long game.
Dropping seeds, trying to get me here. It did
Yes.
succeed. Here I am.
Definitely did succeed. And if anyone that's met you in the last 2 years, They never would have guessed that you were so against doing everything we're doing right now.
When I said, hey, we're going to do this podcast, people are like, yes, that's what I want to hear about. And they're like, who was the one that didn't want to do it? It was Christian, right? I'm like, no, it was me. And they're like, what?
Yeah.
You're like the dadu queen. No way. You weren't the one who was all about doing this. So
a lot of the things that I did, some of the tips and tricks, the seeds that I planted were like, the first, if you've ever listened to any real estate podcast, and if they ever ask, which they often do, what were your top 3 books that helped change your mindset? I started listening to those and making her listen to these in long car rides. Her family lives a couple hours away. And so when we go on these drives, we'd have the kids do whatever they're doing in the back seat, listening to their own podcast or audiobook or whatever. We would be listening to an adult one in the front. Sometimes I'd have it play over the whole entire car and force the kids to listen to it. So like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, for instance. I knew she was never going to pick up that book. Ever.
I was not. I was not going to.
You hearing it once, and then I got the Rich Dad, Poor Dad for kids, and having the kids get on board and them get excited about that process. And I also incorporated the kids in all of this, which we can talk about maybe we won't. I don't know. But.
Yeah. So I was going to say the first tip we have about how to kind of get your partner on board is we call it exposure therapy.
Yes.
Right. So we're he was exposing me to these ideas and concepts that I wouldn't be exposed to otherwise. So being trapped in a car ride and listening to things, Rich Dad, Poor Dad's a great first book.
There's
just
a
to
reason.
Change your mindset. There's a reason that book's so famous.
Yes. And why everyone says that was the first book that brought me into wanting to do real estate investing.
So I feel like that was a great one to kind of get me going, okay, this is what I have, the mindset I have, I've grown up with her, I think. And now this is the kind of other way it could be.
See the light a little bit.
Yeah. And then another thing you could do is have other exposures to real estate there's a lot of people who love watching rehab shows, like those trashy real estate agent shows, but those are exposing you to the real estate game.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of people who probably would watch those. If you can drag your partner to a meetup, take them with you.
Yeah. Convince them by saying, hey, we'll go out to your favorite dessert place after, or go out to dinner before, or make it a date kind of thing. Whatever you got to do to get them to go. Another one is something like BP Con or some convention that's out of town. Just the two of you can go, leave the kids at home, make it special. And this is one that is surrounding yourself with other like-minded people that you want your spouse or your partner to see is successful. So I wanted her to see that there are other couples that work together and are successful and still like each other and actually probably have a stronger bond and a stronger relationship because they work together. And so I would bring her along to all these meetups and conventions and...
Sometimes begrudgingly.
Yes, usually. At least at the beginning.
Yeah.
But you got a free trip. We got a tax write-off trip out of it, which is always possible or fun.
Yeah.
But she would see that there's other couples that are successfully working together. And she would see, and I would ask questions, and then she would go, oh, that's interesting. And then she would start to ask questions of them as well.
Yeah, I was going to say that would be kind of our second tip, is to surround your partner with people who are doing what you want to do. That's a really, really important one, because you are, as we all know, the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Exactly.
And so I think a lot of this job or this world of real estate investing feels crazy to everyone else.
Oh,
they'll be like, what are you doing?
Anyone
are
that
you
is
insane?
not in real estate that looks at us, they think we're insane, and rightfully so, because from their worldview, we are insane.
Yeah.
But from our worldview,
this is normal.
We're also insane, but
in different ways.
But in a different way. And I think this is what works for us, and it is successful for us, and it's fun for us. That's the other thing.
But I think people, you grow up with a certain mentality, right? That, you work your 9 to 5 and then you save your money and you have your retirement. And I think it's, that's the path that most people are on. So if all of your friends are on that kind of path, then this path of real estate investing is going to sound and seem absolutely crazy.
Yes.
It's going to seem far-fetched. It's going to seem risky. It's going to seem bananas. So if you surround your partner with people who are active investors, who are doing this, who are in the day-to-day, they're naturally going to hear conversations at dinners, at parties, at whatever, that are normalizing this type of lifestyle. And so when you say to your partner, hey, we should buy an Airbnb, they're going to be like, not, oh, you're crazy, because they just heard Samantha last week talk about how she just made, $12,000 last month on her Airbnb. It's going to sound more normal, more feasible. There's a thing in like I'm not a big manifester, but I have heard some of these podcasts that say you can't manifest something that's not within your like realm of reaching for it, or within
what you believe is real.
Yeah, or like if you don't have an example of someone that's here where you can kind of see like, oh, I know that person got there and then that person went here. So you kind of have to have these examples. And so if you kind of make it normal and make it seem like this is a reasonable thing to do, that can really help.
Yeah, and I think that brings us to part 3, which is proof is in the pudding. So if you are showing your partner the proof, not just, maybe not at first of you actually doing it, but your friends and the people that your partner trusts and believes, and you're seeing they just got a big giant wire into their account because they're talking about it because they share it on social media, or you talk about it at a meetup that they went to, or you're friends with them and you're out to dinner or whatever. And they're like, yeah, we just made $200,000 off of this flip that we did, and it took us 12 weeks. And you're like, holy cow, that's insane. Never made $200,000 in 12 weeks before. I didn't know that was possible. And now you're lighting up that light bulb in their head that is possible.
It's
reachable.
Achievable.
You can do it. You're just as smart as your friends are that just did that. You can do this too.
I also think the proof is in the pudding for some people, in that you have to, there are some people who will not be convinced until their partner, like if they go off and do a deal, until they see that number in their own bank account, they're not going to be all in on it. There are some people that just have to see that check of their own or their own bank account to finally have that buy-in, like, oh, wow, okay, this is actually real. Like, look at the money you just made from doing this. And that's sometimes what it takes.
Yeah. I'd say tip number 4 is to find out your partner's strengths and have them help you based off their strengths. So if there's something that Shannon really liked to do, which was more on the design scale, I would get her input on stuff like that. When we have to redo one of our long-term rentals, we got to put new paint. Maybe the kitchen's so old and we want to redo it. I would rope her into that process so that she would understand and get some input. And she likes that stuff. I don't really care for it. I'm fine at it, but I'm not good at it. I don't really enjoy it. I know she enjoys it. She finds it fun. She's actually really good at it. So I would get her involved because that's something that she already likes to do. I would never, ever have her do some spreadsheet stuff and try to convince her to find out the cash on cash return of this potential
deal. Well, I can do that
deal.
now, but I wouldn't have done it then.
But you never would have done that before.
Yeah.
And this is all stuff you have learned and you actually enjoy to do or enjoy doing now a little. Because you see the profit of it, and it's like, ooh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
But back then, numbers were not your thing.
Well, yeah, that's the point, is like he drew me in by giving me small tasks of things that I liked. And they weren't big. They were just small. And he knew I would like them. So then when I'm doing these little things that I enjoy, then it kind of built from there of me being open to doing bigger and bigger and bigger tasks, where now I have this whole 9 to 5 plus job where I'm here. And I think that's the key. I'm not to be like sexist or anything, but a lot of times the male is really interested in real estate investing and the female is hesitant. That's just the pattern that I've seen.
Yeah.
And again, oftentimes women are more interested in design than men. So this is a really good way to draw them in. Go to the tile store, go to the cabinet store, make a little date out of it.
I would bring her with me to go pick out selections for stuff. And I'd be like, I would act like an idiot and go, I don't know. What do you think, person helping us? And then she would go, wait, no, I like this or I like that. Yeah. And it was all by design. And this is stuff that you can do as well. Bring them along with you. Have them help pick out the cabinets, the tile, the paint, whatever.
Or at the least, have them go through Pinterest and do like a inspiration board, which is fun. They'll have fun doing that most likely. And so that can help them get interested in it too. And seeing your creations come to life feels really exciting.
Yes.
So that's sometimes a good way to
That's how you can have that snowball into the next one. And that little tiny help where they pick the whatever and then they see it in real life. And then they see the paycheck of that after. And then you go, hey, we're going to do this other one. What do you think? You want to design the kitchen in this one? You want to do the whole thing? Yeah, cool. All right. And it just snowballs. And if they're going to do the kitchen, they're definitely going to do the bathroom. If they're going to do the bathroom, they're probably going to want to have the whole color scheme for the interior. And if they're going to do that, maybe they also want to do the exterior. And maybe at that point, maybe they even want to, choose the color of the new
give a mouse
roof.
a cookie right now.
Exactly.
And then if they're going to want this, they're going to want that. Like what?
It's true though.
Yeah.
Like it does snowball. And that's
does.
the whole point of this is you're just trying to ease them into it. Don't force feed them. Just ease them into it.
See if they like it.
And see if they like it. Yeah.
The next thing, this is the biggest one. What we're about to say right now, this is the thing that I think is the reason that most people are not having their partner on board, which is fear. I think fighting their objections or figuring out what it is that's causing them to say no is super important. So for me, I had all these things in my head, which is for people who want to buy long-term rentals, I hear this a lot, this objection. Well, I think people will wreck the house, right?
They're totally going to trash it.
They're going to trash the house, and that scares me. I don't want other people living in my house, right? And that's a question I get from people like, how can you handle this? Well, they have a security deposit, and if something gets broken, I just use that and I fix the house.
Yep.
So that's a clear way to fight that objection. But usually people have a reason why they're saying no to this. Maybe they've seen a friend go through and try to invest and fail. Maybe they are, very, very risk averse. Maybe there's a lot of reasons why people might be concerned about going forward. My suggestion would be find out, have a conversation with your partner and just be really curious. What is it that's not in any harsh way, just wonder, be curious. Why do they have these feelings? Don't try to fight them in the moment, but just hear them out.
Yeah.
Then you need to know what those are. You need to know why they're being hesitant. And if it's a valid reason, that's totally fine. And you need to accept that, right? But if it's things that that with more information could be something that you could clear up, then you know what you're kind of working with. I think a lot of people are worried about house hacking. They don't want people living with them.
Yeah. They don't want to share a wall.
They don't want to share a wall.
Which is funny because they're probably already sharing a wall in an apartment building or something like that. So it's no different except you get to choose who your neighbor is. You get to be the one in charge of them saying, hey, you need to be quiet. You're the one that gets to put quiet hours in your lease. You're the one that gets to determine,
you're in
do
control.
we need to put more insulation between the shared wall so that we don't have to hear, or dead airspace, or alternating studs on both sides? You can actually have a lot of control in that.
Yeah. And I kind of feel like some fear is valid, but a lot of the fears people have about investing in real estate can be answered. There is a financial risk. There's no doubt to that. There absolutely is a financial risk.
And there's also a financial risk to not doing it. Which one is greater and which one is scarier? Which one's more positive? Which one are you going to lean towards? Yeah.
And just find proof and educate them on the things that they're concerned about. And with some more information, they might feel more confident. Maybe show them your numbers on a deal and say, okay, so this is best case scenario. This is worst case scenario. Show them the comps. Let them see. Hey, do you see how everything in this neighborhood is sold for this much and I underwrote it way under that? Do you see there's so much,
there's potential profit in this deal. Even if we screw everything up, worst case scenario, we'll still make this much versus this much, whatever that amount is.
The other thing I was going to say is house hacking. I think a lot of people have this thought in their head that, I don't want to live with other people, but they don't think about the timeline of that. That is not something you have to do forever. This could be something you do for 1 to 2 years, and then you have this rental property that you get to keep forever with owner financing. And so you need to show them, remind them, owner-occupied financing. Yeah. remind them that this is not something you have to do forever. This is a sacrifice for a small period of time, and then we can move somewhere else and look at what else we could get. Look at the path that it could take us on.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of path, one tip that we have recently heard from actually Rich Fetke, who talks about looking at and imagining your future self in 10 years. And imagine and he goes through this whole scenario. And in essence, it's like, imagine you're in a spaceship and you go out and then you come back and it's 10 years later and you're pulling up to your front door and you knock on the door. Your future self, 10 years in the future, opens it and greets you. And you get to ask them some questions. Wow, where are you living?
Yeah.
What is
your life look like? And you guys should go through this. This is, I think,
it's a good couples test.
Yeah. So you should listen to them do this. It's not really a meditation, but walk you through this and do this with your partner and ask them afterwards, what did you see? What was your life like? What house were we living in?
Where are we living?
Yeah, it can be a really powerful tool in that most people imagine themselves somewhere better than where they are now.
Yes.
And so when they imagine that, you can say, okay, how are we going to get there? I know a way. We can do this.
Yeah, because if we, again, go down the same path we're currently on, probably not going to get there. Or at least it's not in our control. Because if you just have a W-2, that's not in your control. As much as you want to believe it might be, it's not. You're at the whim of whatever your employer decides to do. If you get a raise or not, that's not in your control. If you get fired or not, that's not in your control. If they eliminate your department, not in your control. So if you can take more control of that and
make sure you get where you want to go.
Yeah, exactly. You can be in control of that. I'd say at the end of all of this, to wrap this up, unless you have more you want to talk about.
No, I was just going to say that obviously I eventually pivoted to being into this.
Thank God.
There are some people who aren't going to.
Yeah.
And you need to prioritize your relationship.
That's what I was just going to say too.
Yeah. Over convincing them to be involved in real estate. Your relationship's way more important than whether you invest in real estate or not.
100%.
And it needs to be the priority. And also, clearly, my example, this was a 10-year process. This took a long time. So don't be upset or when it just doesn't happen overnight. You have to have a lot of patience. It takes people time to realize these things. But I think if you do surround them with other people, you give them some exposure to this. Real estate is so powerful. And once you know about it, you can't unknow it. And hopefully they will get on board. They may not want to be there every day with you on site, or they may not like picking design. They may not want to be an active partner, but they might be a supportive partner.
Yep. And that is just as important.
Yep.
As long as they support you in your crazy dream of flipping houses or building dados or getting long-term rentals or whatever it is.
Or building yurts or whatever it is that you like doing.
Campgrounds, RV parks, mobile home park, whatever it is, as long as they're on board and supportive, that is all that really matters at the end of the day. And it's good luck. It can take a long time, but stick with it. It should and hopefully will pay off. And I can't say how thankful I am that you are my partner and that you are on board with it. You were always supportive regardless. You weren't always on board with doing what we're doing now.
Correct.
And I am so thankful that you are my partner. So
thank you. Well, I'm thankful you convinced me, because what the heck would I be doing right now if
I don't know.
I don't know. So boring. I'm really thankful that you stuck with it and continued to convince me that this is the path, because clearly it is. And
I'd say one additional tip too is, and I think this could help push over, because a lot of times, I know with my kids, our kids, when we are telling them something, giving them advice, they don't want to hear it from us.
Yep.
If a friend's parent says the exact same thing, they hear it clear and they listen and they do it. So something that could potentially help is if you have a mentor and your mentor convinces your spouse or says the same thing you've probably been saying for years, and then they see it from this other person who's already successful and been there, done that, or whether it's someone that you just know or it's someone that you pay for their coaching or something like that, that might also do the trick to kind of put that final nail in the coffin to seal the deal. How many more things can I say that means the same thing?
I was going to say, I'm just going to let you keep going. Do you have any more of those?
Well, it's true, though. It's true. And I think that was a big part of it for us.
Which is why surrounding yourself with other people is super important, because they're going to hear it from others.
And my point was to just add on that it could be someone that you even pay for. Not that you're paying them off to say it. That'd be a really interesting seed that I never thought about. Never paid someone to say this. But the point is that it could come from someone that's a mentor that you're already paying for, or a coach or something.
Yeah.
So
that can also be a way to build a community for yourself of people that you can surround yourself with. So yeah, I just want to say that I think I'm glad that I was converted over, and I hope that you guys have good luck with your spouses, but also it's okay if they don't pivot. That's okay.
It is.
Because this isn't meant for everyone. This isn't a lifestyle that works for everyone. And in the end, if that's the case, that's okay. Hopefully they let you do it and they are a cheerleader, but they may not be 100% down for active investing daily.
Yep. So. And that's okay. Because relationship, that comes first. Yep. This is all just extra. So, all right. Well, that's it for this episode of the Awesome in Seattle podcast. You today got to see into the lives of Christian and Shannon Nossum. I hope you liked what you saw. It was kind of off the cuff, and we kind of had a general idea what we were going to say, but I think it really came across well that at the end of the day, it's all about the relationship. But there's lots of ways that you can help show your partner that this could be a way to that financial freedom that at the end of the day, pretty much everybody wants that. You don't want to have to work the rest of your life. That is not why we're here on this earth. It's really to spend time with your family and your loved ones. And real estate's a great way, in our opinion, to get there. There's other ways, but for us, this is the way that works for us. So that's it for this episode. Shannon, thank you for joining me.
Thanks.
And we'll see you next time on the Awesome in Seattle podcast.